All right, it's on, you're on.
Like when somebody doesn't answer the door.
You're on here.
We're on. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Mayor and Council for Wednesday, July 10th, 2019. Roll call.
Mayor Schrager absent, Councilman Bialy,
Here.
Councilman Knapp.
Here.
Councilman Kamala.
Here.
Councilman Levy,
Here, I guess.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Here.
Councilman Talamini.
Here for sure.
Motion to
I moved
excuse the mayor? Right.
Second. Me first.
Yes, you did.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good. Okay, let's stand and salute the flag and then remain standing for a moment of silence. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll give Linda's standard message to you, Don. Make sure your phone is off and no texting. Okay. So this meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Law, duly announced, advertised, and posted in the municipal building. For the mayor's message, she would like to congratulate Jim Polkert on winning our Hometown Hero Award. And I just want to give a little shout out to the Women's World Cup for kicking butt in the U.S. soccer team and becoming World Cup champions twice in a row. That was very good. Approval of minutes. We have no minutes to approve, so that was easy.
Wow.
Appointment to the Environmental Commission.
Mr. Council President,
Sir,
we did not open public.
you're right. Open to the public.
So
Motion,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Seeing none,
Motion to close? Second.
so moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Do you have that?
I didn't put the appointment on because she
It's
wasn't
not on
here
here.
and we were waiting for, so I'm gonna put it on the next one.
Okay. All right, so the special announcement will be pushed to the next meeting. Resolutions. So I'm going to pull the school election resolution from the consent agenda, and we'll go through the rest, and if we want to go consent, we will. If not, you want to pull something else, let me know. So we have 19202 is to authorize a grant agreement with the Historic Trust for the Van Allen House in the amount of $118,765. That's to complete renovations or continue renovations on the Van Allen House. We have 19203 to appoint a temporary clerk typist, Joan Bibble, for the amount of $28 per hour. 19204 is the one I'm going to pull. 19205, authorized refund for temporary food license for a Laura Adams in the amount of $100. 19206 is to authorize the execution settlement agreement for the finale track for affordable housing. And 19207 is a payout of accrued time for Kathy Sandak, who retired from the library, in the amount of $2,128.15.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Knapp.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Levy,
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to pull the school one. I'll read this. I'm going to read this one in full because of the sensitivity of it. 19204, authorized change of school election date. Whereas PL 2011, C202 authorizes changing the election date of school board members from the third Tuesday in April to the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November, the general election. And whereas such action requires the adoption of a resolution by a school district or the municipality constituting such district as set forth in PL 2011 C202, and whereas PL 2011C202 requires that the change to a November election remain in effect for 4 years. And whereas PL 211C202 eliminates the annual voter referendum on the proposed general fund tax levy in school districts where boards of education members are elected at the general election. Whereas PL 211C202 requires that an additional general fund tax levy proposal be presented to voters as a separate question at the general election. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to PL 211C202, the mayor and council of the Borough of Oakland changes the annual election date for the school board members from Tuesday, the third Tuesday in April, to the November general election beginning 2020. Be it further resolved that pursuant to PL 2011C202, the annual organization meeting of the Oakland Board of Education will take place in the first week of January following the November general election, and that the Board of Education's next organization meeting will take place in the first week of January 2021. Be it further resolved that pursuant to PL 211C202, members of the Oakland Board of Education whose terms would have expired by May 2020 will continue to serve in office until January 2021 reorganization meeting. Be it further resolved that the resolution be transmitted to the Bergen County Clerk, the Bergen County Board of Elections, and/or Superintendent of Elections, the Oakland Municipal Clerk, and the School Board Secretary, the Department of State Division of Elections, the Department of Education's Executive County Superintendent, and the Department of Community Affairs Division of Local Government Services. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution may also be presented to the New Jersey School Boards Association and the New Jersey State League of Municipalities. Okay, so that's the resolution. So, unless anybody has any comment, we were gonna take an individual
We
vote.
need a motion and a
Well,
second, then there can be discussion.
And before there's a motion, Council President, if you recall, at the last meeting, the mayor directed me to prepare a resolution authorizing this action.
Okay.
So the resolution that you have is basically the type of resolution, and there was a form resolution from local finance that provided the guidance. We've eliminated the various sections that would not apply. But what you have in front of you mirrors that guidance and the current law as to what would happen. So it would not happen in 2019.
Correct.
Because of the timing. It would happen in 2020. So as Ms. Duncan indicated, in order to move it forward on discussion, there would have to be a motion and a second.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, just to have discussion. Can we have discussion without a motion?
To move the matter on the floor to foster discussion, you need a motion and a second. The fact that you vote on a motion to move it does not mean you have to vote in favor of it.
Okay. So I'll make a motion
Second,
Second.
for discussion.
for discussion.
So, and if I may, we've determined unequivocally that this money for this election comes out of the school board budget's line item,
Correct, it's paid for by the Board of Education.
and the school board reimburses the borough for our employees' times that are involved.
Yes, that's correct.
And Brian, if I also understand correctly, there is a procedure, if the residents in town would want to put this on a public referendum, they can fill out a petition. How would that be done?
All right, okay. The statute has 3 specific ways that this election can be changed. The school is, and it's set forth in this resolution as to the, let's call it the government entities' actions. Either the municipality or the school board can do the resolution. Alternatively, citizens can get it on the referendum if there's 15% of the voters that sign a petition to do so. and I believe I asked Lisa that question, that it would be 15% of 12,000. What's the number, Lisa?
Of the voters or of the residents?
It's 15% of 8,400. So you would need 840 and 420, 1,260 signatures. Now, in doing the research, and as I reported last time, and Lisa was also helpful with this, is that my understanding that when the statute first came into effect, that around 2012, there was a petition, but that petition did not garner enough signatures at that time. That doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, it wouldn't happen this time, but apparently certain actions were taken. There was also that survey that was done by the school board, which of course is non-binding.
Right. All right, thank you. I'm ready to vote.
Okay, I just want to bring up, I stopped in the county clerk's office yesterday, and what he gave me was a little informational placard that he uses, and I believe now we are only one of 4 towns in Bergen County that have elections in April. And what he's given me is a reproduction of what the ballot would look like if we had it in November. And he's shown that one of the reasons that the Board of Education people gave us was that it would politicize the Board of Education. But what the county clerk has done, he has indented or moved over the Board of Education spaces to vote for away from any lines, and he's also separated it by this here unofficial school ballot sign, and if there were any questions would go in between both of these as well. So he's gone out of his way to try to make this as non-political as possible. If that was one of the reasons, which it was, that it would be politicized because of where it sat on the ballot. So if everyone can see that, I don't know, everyone gets a good look at that? How it's set up?
See it?
I can see it from here. Actually, it's nice and big.
Yeah, so.
You just
can
had
see
that
what it
hanging
looks
around
like.
his desk?
And we had the Board of Education here several meetings ago, and they gave us their reasons. And from what I gathered from Rich, right now they are not under the state cap of 2% by having it in April. And they don't answer to anybody for not having that. But if they were to move it to November, they would be subject to the 2% cap as we are. Rich, am I right?
Yep, that's my understanding of it.
Okay.
They're
So
still
they're
subject to the
not
two-
subject to the 2% cap now
No,
in
they are.
April.
They are.
I didn't think that they were.
No,
I
they're
think
subject.
they are.
They're
Oh,
subject
yeah.
to the 2% cap.
So that's what I called Rich about today, and that's what he told me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I did, it was my understanding.
They're
that
subject
they
to the
weren't.
2% cap,
No,
and
they're
they have
Sure.
the same exceptions like the town would have if we wanted to go over our cap. You know, there's similar circumstances.
Then my apologies, my understanding of that was wrong.
So from my perspective, and I'm looking out for the taxpayers of Oakland, it doesn't seem plausible that we should have a separate election in April for 400 people on the average out of 8,400. And the cost of $21,000 we could do other things with. But in saying that, and I don't want to step onto the Board of Education's toes, and this year is finished anyway, so it wouldn't affect anything in 2019. But I would ask that the Board of Education, I don't want to push them by us making a vote to change it to November. If this is going to be changed, I would like the Board of Education to change it.
Right.
And the reason I'm saying that is, I don't want to make it a political question, but it becomes a question of what's right and wrong. If 66 towns in Bergen County have the school board election in November, and 4 have it in April, I'm trying to figure out, I haven't been given as yet $20,000 worth of reasons why it should be in April. They haven't reached that plateau, for me personally. It's not politicized, as you can see. I mean, they're trying to take that out of the equation. And I just don't understand why there was such a push to leave it in April, and you would get a lot more people involved in the election if it was in November. There would be a lot more people voting on the election, as does the flow district on the high schools. 10 times as many people vote in that election than in this election. So that's where I stand on the matter. I would rather the Board of Education people take this. We have to the rest of the year. This can be brought up again, Brian, if we wanted to.
Yes.
So I'm gonna leave it up to the Board of Education and ask them to take this back and reconsider for next year and save $20,000 for the public, and coordinate both elections together in November.
John, I agree with you. I think it should rest with the Board of Education. I tried to draw a parallel. I thought, given this a lot of thought, I tried to draw a parallel between other decisions we've made, such as if we have something to do with the master plan, we refer it to the planning board. If it has something to do with zoning, we refer it to the zoning board. And we more or less take their recommendations. That's what I think we should do with this. As you say, send it back to the Board of Education. If people really want the date change, they should go to the Board of Education meeting and question them about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate to negate another board
Right.
without them having input and then forwarding something back to us as to their reasons why.
Yeah, I don't want to act like Big Brother.
Right, exactly.
And I just think,
We don't want to dictate to them.
and I just want them to understand that the $20,000 could be used maybe for something better in the Board of Education than putting on an election out of season. That's what I call it. Because I go and vote every Board of Election, but
Like
nobody
what?
else
What would
does.
they use it for, just out of curiosity?
What was that?
What would they use it for, just out of curiosity?
Well, no, that's up to them.
But John, getting back to what you said about the 2% cap, as the Board of Education explained, if it is moved to November, there are ways to avoid the 2% cap by using the exemptions that the public would never know about. At least in April, they would know about it.
But my problem is that the Board of Education election in April, nobody knows about it anyway.
Right, so here's my 2 cents on it.
How about we vote?
I agree with John. I also would like to see the Board of Education do a better job as promoting it. So maybe we get 1,200 people to vote versus 400 people to vote, to avoid this coming up again next year, because I don't see this going away the way it's being addressed. You know, the public has the right to go for the petition, or we have the right to make the change next year for the following year, and then we're locked in for 4 years, which I think everybody right up here currently would like to avoid. However, I struggle with this. I honestly do. I agree with a lot of things that John said, and I agree with what Pat said. It's that catch-22. Why are we 104 out of 72? I don't understand that, or 70, whatever towns there are in Bergen County.
It's 4 to 70.
I just don't understand that. So why are we such an anomaly? So if they could come and explain that to us, and I know they came and they did a good job explaining things to us, but maybe explain why they need to be so different, and what is different between Oakland, the borough, because the high school does it in November, versus these other towns. But I also don't want to, be the ruler for somebody else. But I think they need to step up, and they need to promote their election. And if they come out next year with twice the amount of votes or 3 times the amount of votes that they had this year, that shows that the people in the borough actually care about it.
And are aware.
Correct. So I put this on them, because if not, we're going to be in this position again next year.
I agree.
And I don't think the vote will go the same way it's going this year.
Can I,
Just my 2 cents.
I'm sorry, Bob, maybe Russ, because you're the school board liaison,
Yes.
can you maybe just go over for everybody what their reasoning is for this, why they want to keep it this way?
Well, mostly when I've talked with them, they feel it's important to have the right to vote on the budget. You lose the right to vote on the budget if you move it to November, and that's a big sticking point to them. They feel like, you know, what's the cost of a vote? How much does a vote cost? And what's the right amount to pay for a vote? And to have the ability to vote on the budget, that's what they want to do. They don't want to take away someone's right to vote on the budget. That's really where it's coming from.
I guess I'm a little confused. I mean, and I agree that I don't think that we have a business telling them how to run their schools. But doesn't the voter have the right to vote on the budget if it was in the general election?
No,
No, if it's under 2%, no one votes on it.
it's similar to our budget
Okay.
process then.
Right.
And we don't have any problem with voting in November, even though our budget's early in the year. So,
But I think-
and 66
But I
towns don't
think
have a problem with it.
if we gave the right to the people to vote on our budget, they'd take it in a second.
You know, can I just chime in here?
But there's only 400, that's the problem, out of 8,400. It
Well-
doesn't make common sense.
But here's the thing, John, the ratio isn't really as drastic as you're making it out to be. While yes, there's 8,400 voters in town, you know, it's how many of these voters have school children, because these are the people who may be potentially negatively impacted by this. So that ratio is a little different. Even though all the voters have the right to vote, you know, the ones that sort of have skin in the game are those with kids in school.
I don't think 8,400 people vote, and
No, it's actually, I think the actual vote, is it total number of votes is usually not near, closer to 9,000?
no,
No?
The total number of registered
no,
voters.
more like 5,000 or 6,000.
But usually, we're about 4,000, 4,500 that vote in
Yeah.
the
In
general.
a really good
In
year,
a really good year.
not in every year.
No,
Only really
it's
in
3,000,
presidential.
I've seen through,
All right.
but 3,000 is a lot different than 400. It's a
But
lot
then-
different than 400.
Well, yeah.
But now we're over 10%.
All right, so I said my bit about raising the quantity. Let's see what they do. Councilman Kamala wanted to talk.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. I just want to say that this issue's been brought up now for the last 6 months. And in all fairness to this governing body, we've entertained the thought, and the mayor also held a joint meeting with the Board of Education and the governing body. And we got input from the Board of Education. They were unanimous in the fact that they wanted to keep it the same. And I also do agree with the fact that this is the largest part of the budget of our taxes, and we have to not, and if we were to take away the ability to vote on it, I think it's detrimental to the residents in town. It's just my opinion. And also as a father of 2 school-aged children, I find it very important that I have the ability to vote. And the biggest thing that I really have with this is, as everybody else pointed out, they are a duly elected governing body. And we elected them to make decisions whether on the budget and whether to move the school board election, so that's their bailiwick. For us to take any position over that is still, I consider, a major overreach. And I do not support this resolution. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Knapp.
And Bob, I just want to add one thing, and I agree with you, Eric, but it just seems to me your reasoning that you're taking away the vote to vote on the budget is a valid one if people voted on the budget. You have 400 people out of over 8,000 that are coming out to vote on it. Apparently, it's not that big a deal to anybody. So it's not a big deal to the voting public, but it's more of a big deal to the Board of Education.
And when it
That was
comprises,
in April.
and when it comprises 70% of your tax rate.
And it does.
Yeah.
It's the
You
major
would think
portion
there
of
would be
all of
more
our
people
taxes.
voting.
That's why I said what I said.
Or it could be,
Leave it up to the board to get people out to vote
but
on
it could be interpreted that people don't have an issue with it. Now, let's say the taxes went up just an arbitrary number, 20%. You know, every person in this town would be in that voting booth voting it down.
Right.
And the numbers would be there.
Mhm.
And it's happened in the past. Councilman Pignatelli, weren't you on the council
Yes,
at one
I
point
was,
when the
yeah.
school budget got voted down?
Yeah.
And it came for review, came from
Correct.
your governing body
Mhm.
to make decisions and cut.
I mean, I find that people tend to vote because they're mad more than because they're happy. You get more people voting against things than voting for things.
Okay, so I think we've all said our piece, and I want to put it to a vote. So are we at that stage, Brian?
I think where you're at, there are two options here. You have a motion and second on the table. That motion, you can call the vote, or alternatively, a motion to table can be made, which would take precedence. So it's up to the governing body.
I call for the motion.
I call for the motion.
Okay.
To vote.
I call the motion.
Absolutely, yes.
To vote?
All right.
Second.
So there's no motion to table, so the motion is, you have a motion on the floor already.
Okay, so all in favor to continue with the vote?
Need
Do a roll call.
Roll call.
Okay, well, then we're going to do the roll call of the
Roll
vote.
call on the resolution.
All right, so roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
I'm gonna stick with my proposition. I wanna give the Board of Education the opportunity to change it themselves. No.
Councilman Knapp.
Just so I'm clear, we're voting on passing or not passing this
No,
resolution.
that is correct, so a no vote is not to move it.
Okay, so I'm voting against it. I'm no, I'm voting against it.
Councilman Kamala.
No.
Councilman Levy.
No.
Councilman Pignatelli.
No.
Councilman Talamini.
No.
Okay, so that's a done deal. But I really push the Board of Education, I'm sure a lot of you are watching right now, to please, you heard everybody here, they'd like to see you step it up with attendance for the next year. Okay, moving on, we have ordinances, we have two ordinances on for final adoption. 19786, the 2019 capital purchase. We have to open to the public for a hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone like to speak?
Motion to close?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Which one, there's two of them. This is the
Yeah.
first
Well,
one.
we
This
have
is
to
the,
stop
this is the
786.
capital purchase, 786.
Okay, so motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
You need a roll.
Roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Knapp.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Levy.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
No.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Okay. Bond ordinance 19787, 2019 capital bond ordinance. Motion to open to the public.
So moved.
Anybody want a second?
Second.
Anybody from the public want to speak? We got three. Okay, seeing nobody, motion to close.
So moved.
Are we like
Second.
silent in our seconds tonight?
Well, I don't know, he's usually seconding so fast, I don't have a chance.
Pat's playing games. Okay.
Pat's gone dark.
Do we have discussion on that?
Yeah, we
What,
can.
Pat going dark?
Well, you have a motion and a second. so
Go ahead.
we can have discussion.
Just discussion on point E concerning the letter E concerning the Van Allen house. I just want to understand this real quick. Mr. Coons, maybe you can help me with this? It says the appropriation for the estimated cost is $480,000.
Sure, would you like me to break it down a little bit?
Could you do that? And
Sure.
what grants we have toward this, and what's outstanding, and what is this going to cost the borough?
Okay, so section E is two separate capital projects, one for the interior renovations on the Van Allen house, with a cost of $265,000, for a budget that would be authorized here with this ordinance of $265,000, and the other for the removal of the stream house, with a budget amount of $215,000, so that's where the $480,000 comes from. What you see in the ordinance itself, it kind of recaps what that total cost is for those two projects. The grant that's being appropriated from the county for the Van Allen House interior improvements of $150,000, your 5% down payment cost of $24,000, and that results in an authorization for bonds and notes of $306,000. You should also be aware, we approved the grant agreement tonight for about $118,000 in change with the New Jersey Historic Preservation Trust. That was a separate grant that we secured from the state, not the county, that was meant to kind of cover the bulk of what our other costs would be for the Van Allen house and not the stream house, all right? So that's not included in this ordinance, but at the end of the day, when those projects are completed, and we finally get the grant reimbursement for that $118,000, that'll further reduce the amount of debt that we actually need to incur for this work.
So is it safe to say then that we're looking at 268,000 at this point, when you add take the 150 and 118 out of there?
If
total
you took
cost,
the 150 and the
122?
118, yes, about 200, that would be $268,000 in grant money, yes.
One other question, with the Van Allen house, wasn't this, was this quote predicated on something in the last 12 months, or how old was the quote that these numbers were based on?
I had asked Connolly and Hickey to update that, take a fresh look at that to set the project budget for this, so that's current. Okay,
So this is the current cost for the interior renovations?
yes.
So just so we're clear then, so the out-of-pocket cost about $122,000 for the Van Allen house and the stream house, is that correct?
Depends on what the final costs actually come in at. Again, you're authorizing $306,000 in bonds and notes for this. What we'll actually probably wind up doing will be less by the amount of the state grant.
And there was no fundraising done by the historical people at that time, going back 3-4 years ago?
No, I mean, actually, if you recall, some of this dates back to the previous arrangement that we had with the Ramapo Conservancy, and we wound up assuming the county grant, because originally it had been awarded to the Ramapo Conservancy, and they were not able to complete that project.
Okay. And was there any money left over from the original renovation?
That's for the exterior, that's ongoing now.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, so where did we leave off? We had a motion and a second.
You need a roll call.
Was that for a motion to adopt?
Yes.
Okay, so roll call.
Councilman Diallo?
Yes.
Councilman Knapp?
Yes.
Councilman Kamala?
Yes.
Councilman Levy?
Yes.
Councilman Vinatelli?
No.
Councilman Talamini?
Yes.
Okay, moving along. Work session items. Rich?
Sure, start.
You want me to do number one?
Sure.
You have in your package this flood damage prevention ordinance. Every municipality throughout the state is going through updating its flood ordinance based upon the new maps that are referenced in the flood ordinance. Nick Agnoli has taken the lead in regard to this. He's communicated with DEP. The ordinance has been updated, it's been reviewed by DEP and approved. So what's in your package, you have a red line and a clear copy of the ordinance. And what this ordinance does, this brings it into conformance with the standards that exist as of August 28th of this year. And every municipality needs to adopt this ordinance. This is probably the fourth one I've been involved in, because every municipality has to do it. So the process is there's really not a discretion with the municipality. These are the requirements, these are the amendments that are required, and it's reviewed and approved by the DEP. So that's what you have in front of you. Lou has a comment also.
This is something actually that if we did not do,
Oh, we got a problem.
we would have been pulled out of the National Flood Insurance Program, which would mean that anybody that has flood insurance would automatically lose it, and anybody that had a mortgage would probably have their houses closed on immediately. You can't have a mortgage without flood insurance, and you can't have flood insurance unless your community participates with the National Flood Insurance Program. So we had zero choice. We actually took there were three options, there were three sort of iterations of this. There was a very, very mild iteration, there was a little bit more stringent, and there was a very severe one. We took the middle road on it because it helped our CRS. And the other one would have been unduly difficult on residents.
Lou,
I'm done.
question?
Yeah.
What is the burden this has on people that live in that zone?
It's not a lot now, but with the new, as we've been mentioning at previous council meetings, on August 28th, there are new flood maps that come into effect. They've actually been out there, they've been calling them the preliminary maps. So the base flood elevation, that 100-year flood mark, is changing. Within the Army Corps project area, it's actually gonna go down a little bit. As you get closer up to the railroad bridge going across the river, that differential starts to get smaller and smaller, and by the time you actually go under the bridge, it's about the same. In Oakland, the net effect was it changed some of the floodways areas, and it changed a very small amount of properties lost their floodway delineation because it moved the floodway a little closer to the channel. But anybody that is within 300 feet of the banks of the river on August 28th are also going to receive the new rules from the DEP with regard to the C1 waterway. And that's going to be what's called a riparian zoning. I guess, John, you can speak on it more technically than I can, but basically between now and August 28th, anything you want to do, if you live within 300 foot of the Ramapo River or any of the tributaries that directly feed it, anything that regards any soil disturbance you need to do now, because after August 28th, it becomes much more difficult and much more expensive from a permitting standpoint.
Has this been communicated to the residents that live within that 300-foot zone?
I have communicated with at almost every council meeting since they announced the date.
Okay, but I'm just curious, has any mailing gone out from the flood commissioner or anything else, like making them aware of this?
No, not that I know.
All right, so-
Because it's a little touchy about telling people, we're trying to maintain a good relationship with the New Jersey DEP. They're being very good with us, so we're not trying to incite people to do work around their houses now. The idea is just to let everybody know that these new rules and regulations are coming into effect and they need to be aware of it.
So the bottom line is if they want to do something, they have to do it now.
Yes. I mean, but, so that everybody understands, if you have a driveway and you're in and you're within this riparian zone, you can repair your driveway. If your sidewalk is no good, you can repair your sidewalk. What you can't do is make the driveway bigger. What you can't do is make the sidewalk bigger. Those are the kind of things that you won't be able to do, but anything that's already there is grandfathered in place, yes.
How would that be monitored? If I
Yeah.
want to expand my driveway, there's no permit involved. How is it going to be monitored whether or not I make
Actually,
it big?
we're gonna have to adopt an ordinance to make sure that happens,
Well,
Brian.
Well, typically, there usually are permits.
Not
Well,
for your
but
driveway.
you may not have it in Oakland, but there are other communities for driveway permits, and the reason is that
Stormwater
you could
management, for one
ignore,
thing.
you could ignore the flood issue for a moment, but you have impervious coverage and other requirements that, from a zoning perspective, it's like if you wanna do a shed, you go get a permit, you say, where is it and everything, they may not have to issue you a building permit, but you get a zoning permit. The process in Oakland, I'm not familiar with whether you need a zoning permit for a driveway. But what could happen is that, let's assume somebody comes in and puts in a driveway, they may be in violation of the zoning ordinance, and they may be in violation of the floodplain.
And stormwater management.
Right. So,
But, and as far as sidewalks, usually only the borough puts in sidewalks.
Well, I was just.
No, but I'm
using-
just saying.
That's an
Yeah.
example. These are things that will not be able to be done. If you're
Legally.
repairing a sidewalk, if you're repairing the
You
driveway,
have sidewalk from your driveway to your front door.
walkway.
Pathway.
Yeah, if I guess, John, you wouldn't be able to add one. You'd be able to repair one, but you could not add one, because that's a disturbance.
There
There are
There
waivers.
are certain permits by rule that are allowed for homeowners within buffers of the C1 waterway. They give certain square footages that are allowed to be minimally expanded. I think the rule basically has a sympathy for single-family residences, and that there are permits by rule and mechanisms in there for, say, people with a two-car parking space. They may be able to expand it to a third car, absent of any zoning regulations. It's based on the square feet. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but there are certain permits by rule that allow single-family property owners to do this. It really focuses on the commercial properties, that they're really hog
big.
tied by this.
They're big.
Get hold of.
Those are usually big projects, it's not in one car.
Put something together,
Correct.
put it
Yeah.
up on the website.
Yeah, we can develop something.
Mr. Levy, I agree with that. I think something should be communicated out to the
No,
residents.
it's a
To
good
make,
point.
to make them aware of this, and after this is done on August 24th
28.
or 28th, will the DEP notify these people, or let them know that a rule took place, a change took place, or?
I don't know what the DEP is gonna do. I mean, they put it out there, we've announced it. I don't know that the DEP has, unless somebody's had flood claim, had flood losses and claimed them, I don't even know that the DEP necessarily has the data. That's stuff that's collected by the NFIP. Once you file a flood claim, then your property's on the radar. But if somebody has a house that they own that they never had a mortgage on, and even if they got flooded, they never filed a claim, they just fixed it, I wouldn't guarantee that they would ever get anything from the DEP about this.
So there's no oversight on this? In other words, if somebody wants to,
Well-
hold on, let me finish. The only way somebody would be told that they can't do anything is by going for a permit, and the borough would then instruct them.
We're gonna have to probably look at some of our ordinances with that, because what we do, number one is we have obligations in order to maintain our community rating system standard, or rating. And so a big part of that is our stormwater management. So, doing anything that's going to negatively impact, the impervious surfaces in the borough becomes something, and I keep looking at John to make sure he nods his head that I'm not misspeaking. But to make sure that we don't do anything that violates our stormwater management, because A, it's not good for the environment, and B, it could damage our CRS rating, which we've worked hard. And that's something that right now, with the rising cost of flood insurance, I think right now we're getting everybody should be receiving about a 15% discount. And with flood insurances going, $6,000 and $8,000, 15%, back when they were $1,000, it wasn't a huge amount of money.
Right.
Now it's a real amount of money for people.
So that means our construction department needs to be versed on the rules, so they can say yea
John
or
Whitakin,
nay.
we have a floodplain manager named Nick Agnoli, who's also working with us on the river restoration project, but Nick is, among other things, ex-DEP. So he knows all these rules, and certainly anybody can reach out to the borough, and they can get a message to Nick, and Nick will be able to answer any questions. And I did just ask Rich to get hold of Nick to have him put together a quick burst send-out that we can put on the website for people. Or you can just email me and ask me.
Just one more question. Do we know what's the order of magnitude? How many houses does this affect?
I believe we have 220 houses that are in the flood zone. Now, there may be other properties that are within the riparian zone that are not flood properties. Because again, it's 300 linear feet. So, where Hansel's Bar is, let's just say that hotel behind there, that hotel, I believe, is within 300 feet of the banks of the river. And it's not the center line of the channel, it's the top of the bank. So wherever the bank of the river is, it's 300 feet perpendicular. So, for example, that property will be affected by the C1 status because it's within the 300 feet, but it's not a flood property. So the answer is, I don't know how many properties in total. I know that we do have 220 some odd properties that are flood properties. Some of those actually may be more than 300 feet from the river and may not be part, like, I think Grandview Avenue, for example, is still a flood zone, not a floodway. It's greater than 300 feet from the banks of the river. And John's checking Google Earth Pro, he's gonna make a liar out of me in a second.
No, I am not.
But so those houses that are on the side of Grandview, on the far side of Grandview from the river, those houses will be affected by the new flood elevations. Actually, those houses will be affected positively. But if they are, as long as they are past that 300-foot buffer zone or riparian zone, they will not be impacted by the C1 waterway rules.
So like the Boy Scouts up on 202, the Elks, I mean, what impact does it have on anything that they're doing?
If their well, I know the Elks have property, for example, on the river. So the backyard, let's take the Elks, the backyard of the Elks, they will not be able to do any kind of soil disturbances. They will not be able to add any impervious surfaces. If they wanted to put up another gazebo, no. If they want to expand the parking lot, no. If they want to expand the covered doohickey thing,
Pavilion.
that's it. If they want to expand the pavilion, that will not be allowed. They may be able to expand the roof of the pavilion as long as they don't impact the footprint within the base flood elevation.
Well, just one more question, Island Terrace,
Yes,
if there's a couple abandoned houses down there. If they were now, after the 28th, to put septics in or do work down there, can they or can they not do that?
they would be allowed to repair a septic. Put in, I mean, I guess they could probably replace the septic if that was considered an in-kind replacement. In other words, the septic's, it's been abandoned, the septic has now failed, they can do what's called an in-kind replacement. They might even, I guess they would be allowed to put, and John, you stop me if I'm wrong, they would be allowed actually to make the new septic compliant, even if doing so made it slightly more robust, let's say, than the existing septic.
Yes.
Well,
That would be allowed,
Probably existing is a cesspool, they probably don't even have a septic.
probably. So, that answer your question?
Yes, it did. I think the biggest thing is the word's got to get out to people that live there so they know.
Rich has got that covered for us.
Thank you.
I'll follow up with you.
Okay, Rich, carry on.
Okay, next two are engineering items, so we have John here. First one is the Route 202 Sidewalk Project, just by way of background, if you recall,
It's too expensive, John.
here we go.
I knew that.
Well, we had received a grant from the DOT for $217,000. We were notified of that earlier this year. And that was specifically for sidewalks on Ramapo Valley Road going north. I know this has been a long time goal of Councilman Bialy and others. So the idea here was we were going to secure some outside funding to help facilitate that work. And the project limits here that we're looking at is from a point 1,200 feet south of Thunderbird up to Saratoga Drive. Total project cost would be well in excess of the $217,000. So, you know, final scope is dependent on available funding and, you know, bidding and all of that.
There's nothing there now, right? If there's no sidewalk now?
There may be sections that were there that are dilapidated, so I think part of this is new, part of this is rehab and reconstruction.
So we're not taking anybody's property, we're not doing any eminent domain?
I don't know if there will necessarily need to be takings, but there will probably be some property impacts where you have people that have encroached on the right of way.
I don't see how you have a choice.
And, you know, there may be cases where we need a retaining wall or something like that. That's all part of the engineering scope.
Fences may have to come down.
Right, or hedges, things of that nature. This item was actually for Boswell's engineering proposal, but I understand, John, you're still working on that, or you're waiting for approval in order
He's very
to
close.
submit that, right?
I'm very close. I just need one component of it to finalize it and get it to the council. With the short week and with the holiday, I couldn't get that last component done. But basically, it's gonna be what I proposed at the Public Works Committee meeting was a two-step engineering proposal, recognizing that sidewalks, and to put sidewalks where none or goat paths exist, it might be a little difficult, but we want to get it done. The first step would be to do a survey to find out precisely where the right-of-way is, where all these physical features are that people may have encroached on the right-of-way, and to get a handle on if we need any easements, if we need any retaining walls, etc. That would be the first step, and that's what this proposal is. And then the Public Works Committee and I guess would approach the various residents and see what type of flavor they have for what we want to do out there. And then once we get that input, then we give the proposal for the final construction plans, rather than to put all that money up front. It's going to be a two-step process. John, did you want to add to that?
No, just saying that Rich brought up the fact that we have, was it 270?
217.
217, but we have some money already
Authorized from.
authorized for
prior
sidewalk
Yep,
besides that.
correct.
So we do have, there's more funding than 217, but as you indicated, we'll have to go and do the survey first and find out the particulars about the project itself.
Correct. So I apologize for not having the final numbers this evening, but I'll present them to you for the next meeting.
As long as we're moving forward.
Excuse me, I have a question, since we brought up the subject of people's fences and retaining. Has anybody asked the residents who are about to be affected by this, how they feel about getting sidewalks?
Well, I guess the quick answer is no, but to answer that question, we need to do the first step to find out where these sidewalks are in relationship to their properties, so.
A good portion of this, Lou, is existing sidewalks that have
Okay.
been either cut to time
Right, okay,
or
that's fine.
use, but we also have to take into consideration safety of people walking on Rampo Valley
I
Road.
mean, look, it's our property, I mean, it's a right of way, so.
Yes.
Councilman Knapp, would you please instruct Councilman Pignatelli to put the darn water back where it belongs instead of hogging it?
I don't need anyone to instruct me, just ask.
I'd like a motion, please.
Okay,
Say something
so
in
does
a
everybody
tiny-
want this back on workshop, or is everybody comfortable with moving this forward to a resolution? And if we have
Yes.
questions on the cost at the next meeting, we can certainly, hold it from adoption at that point.
Is there any type of map yet?
No, just the
You have
tax
to do a
maps.
survey.
So I have to do that first, Pat, is to prepare the map. That would be the first step.
And then we'll get a rendering?
Yes,
I'd like to
Yes.
see it.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
before we
there
move
were
forward.
assessments done years ago, and, we've kind of looked at where we would like the project limits to be. But that's as far as we've gone.
So it ends at Saratoga. Is that because of finances?
Yes. Long story short, yes.
It'd be real
Quite
nice to take.
frankly, I'll be very, very happy if we get to Saratoga.
Yeah, and that's a shame, because it'd be nice if we went down to Brandywine, because that's right between Saratoga and Brandywine. There's that guardrail right on the road.
Right.
The grand scheme is to connect the Thunderbird neighborhood with the downtown, and the Saratoga with the downtown, and with hopefully Patriot someday with
Yes,
the downtown.
absolutely.
This is the grand scheme that we're looking at.
One step at a time.
Yeah, no pun
Um,
intended.
Just while we're talking about sidewalks, I had a few residents contact me, they're really, people would like us to try and do something with Franklin Ave as you get down towards 202. I don't know, maybe that's something we can take a look at some point, John?
Sure.
Right now is a macadam.
Yeah.
Well, there's places where there's macadam, and there's places where there's no macadam.
And there are places where there's, you can fall off.
Right, so that's,
I know,
people,
because I
people
walk
worry,
it.
yeah.
I walk it.
Yes, we know, for everybody, Councilman Pignatelli walks a lot.
Long Hill Road's the same way. Macadam and then nothing, and.
Right,
That's
so that's,
bad, too, so.
and if you look at it, I mean, because it's just on my way to and from my office.
In a
it's
car. In a car.
Yes, in a car, Pat.
Well, all right,
Because
we
my
have to
friend-
separate you two.
He started it,
No, you started with the car.
and you took the water. Anyway, the sidewalk is on different sides, it jumps around from one side of the street to the other. I get it, I guess if my kid was walking up the street like that, I'd be
Yeah.
a little concerned.
Yeah, it is dangerous.
Okay.
And we don't want anything to happen to Councilman Pignatelli.
Absolutely not.
So who's taking the next engineering proposal, water use, Rich or?
Oh, I think I'll start.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a proposed water use and conservation management plan. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the acronym for that. And essentially, it is a planning document that we need to develop. It's meant to help determine and address what the Highlands Council considers to be our water deficit according to the Huck 14 codes that they use for this community. And it is required in order to receive a consistency determination from the Highlands Council. And it's really thus integral to our efforts to secure expanded sewer service.
Next step.
So 2 consultants are involved in the project. One was actually selected by the Highlands Council to do a reevaluation of the net water availability analysis. The original data is old. It goes back to the original conception of the regional master plan. So a company called CDM Smith, which we contracted already for that work, they would update that. Boswell would then take that data and use it to craft the rest of the plan. Okay. So Boswell's proposal for all of that is $58,000. The scope of work was included in their proposal, and that is consistent with the draft scope of work that was provided to us by the Highlands Council. And finally, all of this is covered by a Highlands Council, Highlands Plan Conformance grant that we currently have. both components, both CDM Smith and the work that Boswell would be doing.
Great.
And Mr. Coons,
Excellent.
it's
Glad to hear
also, Mr. Coons,
Yes.
it's also, I guess, did you mention the fact that this is also, most of this is gonna be covered by grants from the Highland Commission?
Yeah, it's
just
all,
said it.
it's all covered, yep.
Good.
All right.
Okay, next one, I know council asked for some additional discussion, or to continue the discussion on the proposed sculpture donation. So we just relisted it for additional discussion this evening. Brian, I don't know if you want to set the table
Well,
on what those points need to be.
basically where we were at, let me just get my mic on. At the last meeting, Mr. Marklis, came back with his presentation, indicated that there was a location available for the sculpture. We discussed what the obligations of the municipality were. We addressed, I guess, 3 distinct issues. Issue number 1 was the location at Great Oak Park. Mr. Pignatelli had a question on that. I'll allow him to ask that question. Number 2 is the ownership of the rights. Mr. Marklis is the artist, will retain the rights to that sculpture. And number 3 were the obligations of the borough once it accepted it. So once you accept it, you own it. The conditions are that you are going to maintain it. And that's basically where we're at. And we're at the point is, what does the borough want to do? I think Councilman Pignatelli asked me, there was a question raised about the permanency of the location. I know Mr. Marklis is here and Mr. Guadagnino is here. I believe either one of them can answer the question. But that's where it is. I mean, the details can certainly be worked out, but the question before the council is this is something you want to accept based upon your understanding of what your obligation is and the location.
Yeah, the question I had actually came from the Environmental Commission. I believe it was, we have 2 liaisons to the Great Oak Park, and I forget who brought it up, but one of the liaisons said that at the Park Commission meeting, it was said that the sculpture would only be up for 3 years. Is that true, or no? It's permanent. It'll be there for as long as the
There's
metal
only one,
lasts.
there's only one member, there's only one liaison.
I'm sorry?
There's only one liaison from the Environmental Commission. Peter quit. So there's
Well,
only-
now, I'm
there's only-
sorry.
there's only Lee.
Now, right, that was just
And
recently.
Lee was there last night too, so we
He
discussed it.
didn't mention.
Nothing was discussed about that.
So it's permanent, that's all, because if it
Unless
was
there's
only,
things otherwise, but yeah, for us,
Yeah.
we're comfortable with it being permanent at that location.
yeah, because if it was only for 3 years, then we have to find a place to put it, but it's permanent, that's fine with me. I just wanted to clear that up.
Permanent,
Is it permanent?
permanent.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments they want to make?
Thank you. We appreciate the sculpture.
Well, do you want it? Then we can do it. We can accept it by resolution.
I motion we do what he just said.
Well, you have to draw the resolution.
Well, is that, if the majority's in favor, we'll have a resolution for the next meeting.
Yes.
That's what I meant. I motion we do that.
All right, so how about this? All in favor of going forward with a resolution, say aye.
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 Okay, there you go.
Okay, last item under workshop discussions, roller hockey rink. We took bids on Tuesday, July 2nd. Only one bid was received. That was from a company called Bello Grand Contracting. The amount of $457,500 for the base bid. Unfortunately, this is well over the amount of funding for the project, which in total is $350,000 and was part of the ordinances that you approved this evening. It was also well over the engineer's estimate for construction, which was between $270,000 and $310,000.
Wait, it was over his estimate?
It was over Boswell's estimate, yes.
That guy's crazy.
So,
Well, I mean, we can rebid it though, right?
yeah, so you have the right, obviously, to reject.
I mean, we
the
want to
bid
do it, that's a definite, but I think
Based on both the fact that it exceeds the amount of available funding and
we should try it.
and the fact that it is well beyond the cost estimate for the project, so.
So it's about what, about $107,000 above the
Yeah,
estimate?
it's about $100,000, more than that, something. So there are some potential options here. One, we can just go back out and rebid it and maybe get some other bidders that, weren't interested the first time around. Alternatively, and I'd like John to touch on some of this, because what we talked about was, maybe the better approach, because this contractor's asphalt price was very, very high, would be to include the repaving part of it in the road program bid, include that as an element, and do a separate bid for the backer board system and construction of the rest of the facility. That may help lower the overall cost.
That'd be a heck of a coordination, though.
Well, the one would have to precede the other.
Yeah.
It also included putting in the curbing as well, correct? It was curbing and the asphalt.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah.
right. So John, do you want to add anything to that?
Can I just ask John a question?
Sure.
Does Boswell know any contractors who do these kind of recreational facilities? You can do maybe an invite to bid, reach out to 3 or 4 different of these vendors and invite them to bid on it,
Well,
and give them a high and low range?
technically, we're not really supposed to do that.
Really?
We could, we advertise.
Well, you could give us the names and we could do it.
We happen to, speak to people on the phone, and we have to happen to mention things to people, but we don't really,
Advertise.
You don't actually do
Please don't ask me those difficult questions.
You don't do invitations to bid?
I'm sorry?
You don't do invitations to bid?
It's public.
Well, no, I understand that, but in light of the fact that we don't have,
There's no direct
Even-
solicitation. What happens is it's public, there may be communications that result with information being provided, but,
okay.
the bid is supposed to be publicly noticed, and that's the
Right.
way it's
Well,
supposed to
Rich
work.
can ask his
Oh,
professional
maybe-
association, 70
T.R.
towns.
Well-
Reniger, ask them.
Well, also I want to point out, John, I think there were 2 vendors directly that picked up bids.
Correct.
And also 2, there are construction journals
Yes.
out
Dodge
there
reports, Brown's letters.
that,
yes.
publish collectively bids that are advertised by public agencies. 2 of those picked up as well, so.
And, to the asphalt point, just to give a range here, we were thinking $90 a ton. The one bid came in at $160 a ton.
Yeah, but it's not the same pavement, though. It's not the same asphalt.
You're
Yes and
absolutely
no.
right. It's not the same pavement, it's not the same asphalt. We purposely, raised our price slightly. We've had 3 people with 90 years of experience look at this before it went out the door, and we thought that our estimate was right on. So, we were very surprised. The other component we saw was we had a basketball court that went out in another community about the same time, and that came back with equally high asphalt pricing. So the asphalt market right now, if you have small quantities, you're gonna get really out of this world pricing on the asphalt. So that's
Is there a
why I
different
made the
surface we can
recommendation
use?
How
to
about,
put it into the road program.
how about
as an
time of
open
year
thing.
that we put it out, too?
That's another,
And the cost of oil and the cost of petrol.
that's another thing in the crystal ball when we do this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And who would be picking up on this? Would this be a paving contractor, or would this be a recreation contractor? It's somewhere in between. The person that picked it up was a person that was, and bid on it, was somebody trying to become a recreation contractor, hence the very high bid.
So they might not even, well, I was gonna say, they might not even be a good choice.
Correct.
Correct. So, those are the options. We could put this out to bid. The schedule is gonna be very tight now. We have to coordinate amongst 2 bids, basically, to have the curbing and the asphalt put in
Yeah,
first.
yeah. It's
Not
gotta-
that that's an immense problem, but we would put in our specs that work gets done first, obviously, as part of the road program,
Sure.
and get it in the ground, and then the second half could be bid out. But I would suspect we would get much better pricing if we were to structure it that way.
Is this just, it's a naive question, but what's the base of a tennis court made out
it's asphalt.
Same
thing.
Same
Is it
design.
exactly, that's my question, is it exactly the same that you would use on a roadway?
I would think it'd be-
Or
no.
do they put a different formula
It
together
would have to be
for
smooth.
recreational purposes?
The top surface of the roller rink and the tennis courts is more of a sand mix. It has much finer aggregate, slightly higher price, but not the prices that we would see here.
Right.
And we would put that in the spec. For the roller hockey rink, you would have to use this special sand mix. It's the exact sand mix that Wyckoff used for their court. I looked at their court, it is a beautiful court. So we have a great spec here. I think we just have to put it in with someone that's an asphalt contractor to have it as an alternate bid.
And John, we can do this in stages also. We can still do the demo, put the curbing in, and then if we had to find out whoever the vendor was that did Wyckoff, maybe have them come and bid on it and be done with it.
Yes, as long as they read the paper.
Okay,
And I happen to catch them on the phone.
okay, I mean, that's certain, yeah.
Well, again, Rich, can you question your professional association, see who, has anybody put a roller skating ring in and who they used, et cetera?
Yeah, Wyckoff.
That's it?
Yeah.
That's all I know in my, in the local area, I can do something statewide, and see if anybody's done a kind of a whole cloth reconstruction like this.
Yeah.
Well, Wyckoff they just resurfaced it. So
Right,
they did a
theirs was
mill
more
and
limited
repave
scope.
of the surface itself. The
Right.
boards and the curbing were already in
Did
good
they
shape.
pay $160 for?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
I would doubt it. I
What was
would
it,
doubt that
60,
that.
Mike?
That's 60.
60 grand for the asphalt, for mill and repave. So that shows you how out of line this thing is.
And how much
Well,
that's-
ours is a full depth reconstruction, it is a little bit more involved than what
Yeah,
Wyckoff
yeah,
did.
but the pavement, but the bulk of the price is the paving, I would think.
We couldn't use millings for this,
No,
No, it's too rough.
too rough,
It's a hazardous waste.
even the bottom surface?
no.
Hey, listen, I'm trying to throw out ideas.
Thank
hear
you,
you.
thank you.
Actually,
Mr. Council President. for
That actually
suggestion.
raises a very interesting question. Is this, with the new C1 regulations going in place, is this going to affect us doing any work on the hockey rink?
No, you're beyond.
No, because I think you're
Right,
probably
you're
trying,
right.
I think A, you're beyond it, and B,
Okay.
you're doing an in-kind replacement anyway.
Okay,
Yeah, it's not a new ring,
Right.
okay.
same location.
Okay,
Moving forward.
so Rich, you're just gonna do some homework on that?
Yeah, and I think maybe we, split the project up, and we can give that direction to the engineer, because we are finalizing the specs to go out to bid on the road project, so we can get all that work done this calendar year. And then basically the bid that we went out with would be revised, to just,
So are you saying-
include the other items.
So probability we won't be able to do it this year?
It'll be tight.
We'll give it the college try,
Okay.
and we're in good shape to give it the college try, so.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna move on to new business. Anyone have anything new? Nobody? Okay. Old business?
I do.
Yes, sir.
At the last meeting, I know that Eric had asked about the tree over by the train station,
Christmas tree.
the Christmas, well,
Oh,
whatever it is.
Evergreen.
The number one is that tree, as it turns out, is exactly on the border between the railroad's property and ours. So we cannot take it down. John Yakimic had spoken to the railroad, they agreed that their guy could take it down, we'd have to split the cost with them at, I think it's $1,200, so $600 to us, $600 to the railroad. They would not remove the stump, we would have to do that. The other thing is that, I know Eric, you'd said that Ed Clark, our shade tree chair, had a tree. He doesn't, we'd actually have to go out and buy a tree.
Right.
We would not be able to put that tree back in the same spot because the railroad doesn't want it. The bigger issue right now is that it looks like that tree is actually a heritage tree. Apparently, back in the day, there were 2 trees planted on either side of the railroad tracks by the old train station. That is the one that is still surviving. So the Shade Tree Committee at the next meeting will be discussing putting that tree on the heritage,
Oh, you mean listed?
listed as, yeah, we almost have to do it because it appears that it meets all the qualifications for being a heritage tree.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Tall and ugly?
That means it has to be preserved.
But it looks
But if it's
horrendous.
dead, it doesn't have to be.
It's not dead.
preserved.
It's not doing well, it's not a great tree.
Did Mr. Clark look at it?
It's not a good tree, he did look at it. There's no discussion that it's not a good tree. It's not going to come back, it's not going to get better, but it may be a heritage tree. Now, whether we can,
That makes no sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
Who flagged this?
that was flagged when we were discussing it the other day.
But you flagged it.
We didn't
I
flag it.
didn't flag it, I didn't, actually, Ed flagged it. Ed was the one who mentioned that it might be a heritage tree, that it qualifies as a heritage tree.
So if the tree's not dead, but it's dying, it can't be revived, but yet we have to preserve it.
Well, we don't, that's what we're
No, we
gonna
don't.
discuss, is based on its condition, if we don't have to preserve it,
No,
we won't.
Until it
We
falls.
we have to
across the
start making
railroad.
common sense around here.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
I think you need to make a decision as to what you want to do with that tree.
Oh, my God.
That's basically it. You have a proposal from the railroad, because it's partially on the railroad property, that
Maybe we
for
should have a
their,
referendum.
Right, send out an email.
for their insurance purposes, that they will undertake the removal of the tree.
Right.
It's
Well,
$1,200.
their contract-
So it's $600 to the borough.
It's $600 to the borough. So if you want the tree removed, that's the cost.
Make a motion that the borough pay $600 to take the tree down.
Brian, if
And
I
we
can,
use the
do
tree in a heritage fireplace.
Well, we still have the cost of removing the stump. We'd have to get rid, if we wanted to, we would have to have the stump ground on our
Mr. Coons,
dime.
we have money in the budget for $600 for this, under the shade tree.
I'm sure we could accommodate it, yes.
Okay, including the
But
stump
Brian,
grinding?
I have a question. If it's half on their property, it also means it's half on our property. If they want their contractor to do it for insurance reasons, well, we have the same insurance concern. So do we need some sort of an agreement with them for cross-indemnification?
All I would want is since it's,
Certificate of
one tree,
insurance?
I would want a certificate of insurance from their contractor indicating that the borough is an additional insured for the work.
Yeah, let's not make a mountain out of a molehill here.
Yeah, for $1,200, I think we just need insurance.
All right. So Eric, you made a motion. Is that a real motion?
Well, actually, Mr. Coons just said that they have funding available to do that.
Well, the shade, I mean, from the shade tree budget, from the trust fund, because the trust fund is only,
Well, the
as I
trust fund-
understand it, for planting trees,
Correct, from the shade tree budget. yeah.
but not from the trust fund.
No, the trust fund can't be used to take
Right.
down trees.
Okay, so does that mean we just all decided that we wanted to remove the tree?
We already did that.
Yes.
Okay, so Rich, you're gonna take care of that?
Yep, I'll follow up.
Good guy, Rich. Okay, anybody else have any on old business? Bob does. John?
No.
Dynamic?
Yes.
John, you what?
287 paving project. Continuing,
Yes,
not complete yet,
correct, not complete yet.
but I see them doing a lot of work, so.
They were working last night when I left the Board of Adjustment meeting.
Yep, so it's all good. I just didn't know how far along their completion date might be.
I'm guessing another week or two.
Okay, council, committee, and liaison reports. We'll start with Pat.
What about Lou?
You're a councilman, I started with you. It's my meeting, Pat. I
This
can
is-
do
yeah,
what I
yeah.
want.
It's just dissing me, man.
Unfortunately, I did not have any meetings. However, I would like to bring up a matter since Mr. Guadagnino is here. One of my neighbors approached me. They have a, oh, geez, what do you call the?
Tree?
The units that go up and take pictures.
Drone.
Drone, thank you. They have a drone, a rather large drone. They have FAA licenses, they have $1 million in insurance, and they would like to photograph the Great Oak Park. What?
No, the TV camera, come on,
I'm sorry?
come on, go on.
Anyway, they would like to photograph the park and other areas in town. I told them to make sure and touch base with the police department first before they do anything like that. So, kind contacting the police department.
Yeah.
They'd also like to do borough property, the library.
I think it's a great idea, and I think, you know, it probably needs to be coordinated through Rich, so he could pinpoint who needs to get
And
contacted.
what's the liability?
Talk liability on
Right.
that too.
That would be your forte, Rich.
Like I said, he said he has $1 million in insurance. So anyway, he does have insurance, he does have a license, FAA license.
Eric, you know about this stuff, don't you?
Yeah, actually, Pat, your neighbor called me
That's it, yeah.
just the other day as well, and
Mhm.
what I suggested maybe the best way to start this process was to reach out to the OCC and Ryan Schwartzfeger, because he ultimately wants to put it up on public access and put it on the web and everything.
Yes,
So I can
correct,
start that
yeah.
process there,
Mhm.
working with the Communications Commission, then make
good.
the arrangements with the PD and let them know.
Correct.
It kind of started as an organic grassroots way of doing it with the OCC. I thought it was maybe, you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, to have this as a record,
Yeah,
permanent record would be great. I mean, you never know what comes up in the future, and they want to know what was existing, or what did it look like in the past. This would be a great thing to have on file.
right, and as you stated, he does have a Part 107 pilot's license, both he and his son. He does have the liability insurance, and he also does have the hours to do this, so certainly I would feel comfortable if he was doing this.
Mhm.
So my question would be, I'm guessing to Rich, or maybe you could find out, $1 million liability insurance seems like a lot of money, but
I know what you mean, yeah.
not if that thing
Not if he
falls on
flies a
somebody.
drone and he
Right.
flies it over West Oakland Avenue and somebody cracks up a car.
That's what I mean, so before they go to the Communication Commission, they run with it and do a lot of work that is pointless. I'd like Rich to take a look into it, make sure it's feasible, and then we'll take it to the next level.
And Richard, you might
We'll
want
reach out to the JIF and our risk manager.
You might want to check in with Greg Hart. They have an ordinance for drones over in Franklin Lakes.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have one here.
Pat, anything else?
That's it, Council President.
Russ?
I have nothing to report. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Lou.
Lou?
He's going left and right.
You know what? Now I got nothing.
Good. That much quicker. John?
I have a senior report, the summer movie schedule of weekly afternoon movies continues every Monday at 1:30. The July 15th movie will be The Upside, and the movie for July 22nd will be Isn't It Romantic? A flyer with the weekly movie schedule can be picked up at the senior center and is also available on the borough website. Bingo will be held on Thursday, July 18th at 1 p.m. The senior building will be holding an event at the Oakland Rehabilitation Center in conjunction with the Oakland Walgreens store. The event will include topics on skincare and sun safety, which will also include makeovers by their makeup department. Although it is free, pre-registration is still required. This event will take place on July 24th at 1 p.m. Beginning in August, a new fitness class will be added to the regular schedule of programs. Every Friday from 12:30 to 1:30, the center will be hosting an arthritis fitness class. As with all other fitness classes, this will be a drop-in class. And please save the date of Thursday, October 3rd for the fall trip to the Paper Mill Playhouse in Millburn. The stage play offered will be a new musical called Chasing Rainbows, based on the life of Judy Garland. Tickets will go on sale on September 3rd. DPW report. The water department employees continue their annual fire hydrant flushing program. Every borough-owned fire hydrant is being flushed, pressure tested, and inspected during this process. This project will run through the early part of November. If a hydrant does not pass the water department's inspection, the Oakland Fire Department is immediately notified and the hydrant is labeled out of service. The hydrant will then be replaced as soon as all other underground utilities are located and identified. In most cases, out-of-service hydrants are replaced within 5 working days. Our Public Works Department employees have completed the work with Wind River environmental inspection. This project was designed as a tool used for inspection and video recording of all borough-owned sanitary sewer mains located within our 3 sewer service areas. The final report will identify specific locations where groundwater may be infiltrating our wastewater collection system, as well as identifying areas that may need future maintenance. The final report should be delivered to the Department of Public Works by early next week, and if repairs are necessary, there'll be a schedule created for any work needed after the borough engineer has reviewed and approved the report's findings. Also, Rich, myself, and Anthony met with another vendor from a electronic bulletin board company, and they come with the actual bulletin board set up inside a panel truck, and it's raised up, and we were able to discuss and review the different formats and sizes that are available. So we're pretty sure about what we're gonna be getting. We're just waiting for quotes to come in so we can start giving some vital information to the residents of Oakland. Thank you.
Eric?
You don't want to go first?
Saving the best for last.
Library. Library is currently running a program called Food for Fines. So if you are an Oakland patron with the Oakland Library, with an Oakland Library item with a fine, if you donate some food, they will do away with the fines, and it goes to the Ponds Church Food Bank. Also, as I said before, there's a lot of good programs going on down there. Once again, laser tag, July 19th, 5:30. It's for grades 5 through 12. Limited space, so please register. Here's one which is free SAT practice testing, Saturday, July 7th at 12 p.m. Provided free down at the Oakland Public Library. Once again, space is limited. Registration is required. Also, a game truck on July 25th at 5:30 to 6:15 p.m. for teens and tweens. Come hang out at the library in the game truck. Also, the summer reading is taking place for the kids and the adults, and Peter's telling me that the library is really receiving a lot of traffic going through, and it's been a very busy summer for them. Real quick on OCC, I don't know if anybody's noticed on public access, the new bulletin board is live, and the OCC wants to recognize Barbara Prokopi for making all the new bumper videos, Corey Hippman for composing the original music for the bumper videos, Salma Chow for the new slides, and the TV committee is always looking for new members. If you want to get involved, please email the OCC. The email is occ@oakland-nj.org. That's occ@oakland-nj.org. And also, they're always looking for ideas on how to better improve communication with the residents. So if you have any ideas, please email that, the occ@oakland.org, and let them know, and the commission will take a look at whatever they can do to help facilitate that. And if you want to volunteer as a commissioner, there is an opening. So that's all I have. Thank you, Councilman.
Okay. So I only have a report for the Great Oak Park. The update is the lawn is growing to the point where it had to be cut, so that's great progress. The band shell process is progressing. Funds keep getting donated to us, so it's moving right along there. And at the dog park, fundraising continues. Ryan will be advertising a couple more things in the near future, so he can work more towards his goal. As far as public safety goes, police, fire, and EMTs, I give my report on the second meeting of each month, so I don't have a report for them for tonight. I just want to wish them all to be safe. You look on Facebook recently, and all you see is these cops just getting shot here and there and all over the place. And I just, I wish our guys the best. We have an interstate highway that comes right through town, so you never know who's getting off. And they need to be extra careful, so everybody just say a prayer for those guys.
Before we move on, Council President?
Sir, yes, sir.
I know we've had some discussion on the electronic board that's going to be going up, and I think we put a facsimile of it up in the park. Will we be having discussion on location of this board before we do it?
We brought in the borough engineer, and we kind of located a location.
Because, well, and looking at where that board was, I just thought, my idea would be, where the existing board is, right? If we just move that up 50 or 60 feet, we already have power to it. I think it would be a better location. There is no tree in front of it or behind it.
Now, we've kind of figured out all the logistics, because we're looking at it from the best vantage point. We can't get too close to the corner of Oak, because Oak and Rampo
Right.
Valley Road, there's a cluster of mechanical stuff that's in the way
Yeah, yeah.
of viewing coming to the, going south. So we moved it down further, so you can see, but you have to also understand, what you saw there isn't going to be how it will be set up.
Yeah,
It's
I
gonna
know.
be elevated,
Yeah,
so it's
But-
gonna be higher up in the air.
But there's also power right down where they light the Christmas tree.
And we're gonna bring that, we're gonna
Right there.
ditch witch it up about 100 feet from where the Christmas tree lights
It's right
are.
down the hill. And where they're proposing putting it, even though you're not right on top of the traffic light, you can still read it while you're stopped at the light.
oh,
That's a good.
I just thought, people know the existing sign where it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, but you can't see that.
No, I know, but I'm saying,
existing
if you
sign.
move it north, like where the exit is from the Board of Education, if you moved it there by where the crossing guard is,
Yeah, we want people to see it from the light
okay, I see what
at
you're
Oak
saying.
Street
I see
while
what you're
they're
saying.
stopped.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And also, the people coming up from the school, from Oak Street, they can read it also, coming up that way. And there's a lot of traffic going in
Okay,
there.
I just thought I'd
We've,
bring it up.
there's a lot of minds out there who are thinking about the best possibilities,
Mhm.
and we all put our thoughts together.
Okay.
In fact, we even asked the companies who are making proposals
Yeah.
for their ideas,
Mhm.
and they believe that the location that we selected
Okay.
is one that fits the purpose.
So it's not where that board was then?
Well, it's not exactly where that board is, no, and it's not gonna be there, and it's not gonna be in that, at that elevation. It's
Okay,
gonna
no, I
be-
understand.
It's gonna be up in the
I
air.
understand. Thank you.
Okay, motion open to the public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Well, the real.
You were here first.
I'm Mike Guadagnino, 34 Hopper Street. I'm going to ask about the roller rink, because given the old college try, it made me a little nervous there. I want to exactly, so what was just decided here? We're going to do it in piecemeal? We're going to try to add the surface with the roads project? Is that what we decided to do?
Yeah, so we would
Yes.
include that as an element in the bid for the overall road program this year.
And we're going to bid out the boards?
We'll do that as separate.
And when does the road project get done? Normally?
Typically, well, I think this year we're probably looking at, what, John, at this point, September, October, something like that?
It would be on the same general schedule that we would be constructing the hockey rink anyway.
No, but when do you normally do it? September, October is when it's normally done?
Normally I like to do it much earlier in the year, but because I've been having a lot of add-ons as the year goes on, drainage work, now this new alternate bid for the hockey rink, it's been moving forward. The line in the sand's been moving forward. What's your point, Mike?
Is it September, October, or is it gonna be, when do you expect it to be done?
September, October.
Yeah, that's all I asked.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so then the boards, if we do bid the board's gonna be coordinated to be done right after that. We're
Correct.
still looking at that November
Yes.
worst shape, okay. When you said
Yeah.
give the old college try, to maybe think, we're talking 2021
Oh,
now.
did I get you nervous when I said
Well,
that?
nervous, but just, because we do have we do have the funding to pay the $340,350. We do not have the funding for this crazy bid that came in.
Right,
And I wouldn't give it
right.
to anybody who came in with a bid.
I'm
Trying to
sorry
take
if I
advantage
gave
of
you
people
a
like that.
negative connotation.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted
of
a
college.
clarification.
I was trying to be more positive.
People watch this, they're gonna be contacting me tonight, tomorrow. Thank you.
What about field hockey? Maybe we just make it field hockey, just go grass.
We already have fields.
Come on, Don.
Don Center, 47 Thackeray. First about the C1 streams, there's a lot of houses that have the streams in back of them. Thackeray Road, we have a
Well,
stream in back of us.
It's gotta be a stream that's a direct tributary to the Ramapo River,
I think
so,
our stream, and,
for example, I'm just, it's in my head, Alaman Brook and Pond Brook
uh-huh,
are not going to be C1 stream, because they feed into Crystal Lake,
oh, okay.
and Crystal Lake feeds into the Ramapo, so therefore it's not considered a direct feed to the Ramapo. There's, up on Andrew Avenue, there's a drainage easement that runs down some of the backyards there. That probably, well, I guess that won't be a C1, John, because that's man-made.
I'm sorry. I
Remember
wasn't
up by
paying
Andrew,
attention.
but
I'm not the
water-
floodplain manager, so I wasn't paying attention.
Up by Andrew, by the water tank.
Yes.
That stream will not be a C1 because that stream is manufactured. That's not an existing, that wasn't a natural water, that was put in.
Well.
That's what lets us do the head wall
I'll
replacement.
give the safe answer, I don't know. I would have to find that out.
I know, for example, I know Alderman Brook will not be.
Okay.
Okay. And as far as the school board vote, I think punting this to the school board makes absolutely no sense. You all know exactly what their position is, and their position is they don't want to move it. And I believe the reason is they have then total control of that vote. Brian, could you just correct me if I'm wrong? Right now, with the vote in April, they are not subject to the 2% cap because the budget is voted on.
That is correct.
Okay.
No, there's
So-
no 2% cap. They are subject to the
Well,
cap.
but, I'm sorry, there are portions that are not subject, just like the municipality.
Okay.
But basically, their budget's voted on no matter what in
Right.
April. In November, if they exceed the non-2%,
Right.
then it's not voted on.
Okay, so if in November, if the election were in November and they exceeded the 2% cap, that would become a budget question then
Correct.
at the election. So if they exceed the cap, they can. And now they can exceed the cap because it's voted on.
I did it backwards. The way to look at it, April budget is voted on. November, if you exceed certain parameters of that 2%, then it goes to the voters.
But if it's under 2%, it doesn't go to the voters.
That's
As long
correct.
as they maintain 2% or under.
That's correct. It's 2%, that's in November.
However, there
Now-
are exceptions.
Yes.
In April,
And
they
they
still
can
have
exceed
to,
it.
they still have to maintain 2%. And then there's exceptions that they could apply for, but if they don't get it, then they can't do that.
Brian,
They
if
have
they
to get-
exceed the 2%, can they do it and put it on the budget vote?
At what point in time?
In
You're talking
April,
about
in the April
In
election.
April, you vote on the budget.
So
The exceeding of 2% is approved by the Department of Education.
They can't go over the 2% without receiving an approval from the Department of Education.
But whatever
In
the
April.
budget is, whether it's 0 or
Right.
10%, it's going to the voters.
Okay.
In April.
Anyway,
In April.
so my point is, punting it to the Board of Education when you all know their position, to me, makes no sense. And you're not going to, it's not going to change. I think it's unfortunate that this council has voted to continue what I believe is a waste of $21,000 of taxpayer money. I understand that's a drop in the bucket of our total taxes. Makes me wonder how many more drops in the bucket are there. I know,
Can
I like this, thank you, Mr. Knapp, because actually you're letting me talk to the council and the council talk to me, which often I'm not allowed to do. But
Well,
yes,
And Don, I just want to share with you, the Board of Education has until the end of the year, let's say, to make a decision for next year, because this year is done already.
yes,
So at the end of the year, if they haven't moved on it, we can bring this question forward again. And we don't know if that question will meet the same end that it met tonight,
well,
for 2020.
okay, at the end of the year, maybe I'll come back and ask if you're gonna move it again.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
That's all, thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Councilman DePentima,
No,
welcome.
Former.
Frank
Former
DePentima,
councilman.
Once a councilman.
former 6 Mountain Lake, so I'm taking the other side of the coin. I don't think you guys should be entertaining a discussion about the school vote. That is the school board's responsibility. I happen to be one of the people who think they did the exact correct thing, and it's courageous that we're one of 4 towns in the state that still allow people to exercise their opinion on the vote. I'm one of those faithful. I want to support them, so I want to be able to do that. So whether it's 350 to 400 people, to me, doesn't matter. The point that I can vote on in April, and I will not get the opportunity in November unless it exceeds, is very important to me. Because by the council taking action against the school board's wishes, you're actually impinging my right to exercise my vote. So I think you need to consider that. Russ, Pat, you were both correct in what you said in your statements. It is I've heard 20
to 25,000, whatever it is, on a $30 million budget, it is a ripple. And there's no guarantee where that money's gonna go. I mean, we give an extra 45,000 to the library each year above the requirement, and no resident says a word, but spend 21K on a school budget of 30 million, 45 on an almost $20 million budget, it's not the same for me. So I think you did the right thing, vote it down. You know, if the school board changes their mind, or future boards change their mind and they come up with something different, then that's their prerogative. But those of us who come out and vote every April should have that right to vote. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to close,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Bills to be
One more
paid.
item I'd like to bring up.
Oh,
I just want to end this on a positive note.
there's nowhere on the agenda for one more item.
Okay, I just want to bring up a very special person that was honored this week, and I happen to be there in support of Jim Folkerts, who was honored by Congressman Josh Gottheimer at the Hometown Hero Awards at Felician University in Lodi. And surprisingly, there were 40 winners from all communities, from all the counties in the 5th District, from Sussex, from Passaic, and from Bergen. But just so happens that Jim's photo ended up in the Bergen Record yesterday, which is good for us, good for Oakland. But I want to congratulate Jim, and we should have him here to accept our applause on another night for a council meeting, just so everyone gets to meet and know who Coach Jim is. So congratulations again to Jim Folkerts for receiving the Hometown Hero Award this year.
Bob? Council President?
Yes, Patrick.
And the only reason I'm bringing this up, if we wait till the next meeting, it'll be too late. But on July 20th, Bergen County will be accepting all hazardous waste. Rather than dispose of it illegally in some way that harms the environment, bring it to Camp Gore 9 to 3. Camp Gore Mountain Reservation on 200 Camp Gore Road. Gasoline, oil, pesticide, herbicide, anything that's hazardous, please bring it there. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Sorry.
While we're redoing new business? Okay,
July 25th is my birthday.
bills to be paid? Councilman Talmini?
Total bills to be paid, $114,596.17. So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Nash.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Levy.
Yes.
Councilman Pinutelli.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in
Now
favor?
speaks up.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Next meeting will be Wednesday, July 24th, 2019.
Technically, can he say that after?
Mike, why were you laughing when I brought up the
Bye.